you might ask yourself, why do I talk about trust? Trust in digital supply chains. Trust and not security, safety, or something like that. Well, there is a good reason for that, because actually now trust is demanded and asked for by legislation and standardization. And that has two very good reasons. Firstly, let's face it, trust is broken. Trust in traditional IoT systems is broken. We have IoT systems now for more than 20 years around. The term IoT, Internet of Things, was coined in 1999, and still those systems are often unsecure, shoddily programmed, and so basically not trustworthy. The other reason is with artificial intelligence, which is the backbone of AIoT, of course, a different animal enters the room. Artificial intelligence is about understanding how intelligence works and how to implement it on artificial devices. And those systems you want really to be trustworthy, because they have some intelligence, they can act on their own, and this should fit nicely in our habitat. So this is why I'm talking today about trust primarily. However, safety, security, robustness are part of that. So I started talking about trust without defining it. Normally you should do it the other way around. But I started with your natural understanding of what trust is. However, trust in the digital world is different from trust in the traditional haptic world, so to say. Because we basically share the same perceptive means and consider our world we live in as reasonable, stable. So if we make utterances about trust, I trust you not, or I trust something to happen, then the context is given and stable, and we can rely on that. However, that's different in the digital world, because what we refer to as digital world is basically networks connected by systems, by artificial systems, with operating systems on it, protocols, and so on. And everything is changing all the time. So it's an extremely brittle environment. And so when we talk about trust and digital trust, we have to establish the context first. And context of trust means, in that case, the trusted computing base. So the elements of this artificial network, of these systems, we have to trust and rely on, that we can rely on the solutions they work for. So this is why digital trust is a different animal and why it's worth talking about it. So let's look at the definition. We find that digital trust is the confidence placed in entity to collect, store, and use the digital information of others in a manner that benefits, protects, and maintains the digital sovereignty of those to whom the information belongs. This element of the definition covers the competence part of trust, because somebody needs to be competent and entitled to do something that we can trust them. And the relationship of the entity or organization with the data owner can be understood as digital data stewardship. We know the term stewardship from organizations like Maritime Stewardship Council or Forest Stewardship Council. It makes clear that someone takes responsibility for something. And we mean that by digital data stewardship, we really take care about the data of the owner. We protect it and we handle it carefully. And here again comes the competence part, handling data proficiently. But this data stewardship should cover the motivational part, which is part of trust as well. So this is what we mean by digital trust. Now let's dive deeper in the actual topic. This, what you see here, is an AIoT value stream, an artificial Internet of Things enabled value stream. It starts with the data. And it looks very simple, however, it's really complicated. And data here, you wouldn't believe, if you haven't worked with that, how much effort it is to produce data and use it in a way that you can use it for the digital supply chain. 80% of the effort is spent in preparation and preparing the data so that they can be used for training AI algorithms. And then they can, those algorithms are not programmed like before, but really trained. And this brings new complexity to the overall processes and to the lifecycle management. And then the final product, when it's then delivered to the user, he again produces data which can be used, if the user agrees, of course, to work on the product again, use the product, use the data to make the product better, to make it more adaptive, because AI systems can learn and can be adaptive, so that the next version fits even better the needs of the user. Sounds very complicated. I give you an example. Sven already talked about optical digital inspection with the examples he gave at the very beginning. And let's look at that. You will see we cover the whole value stream here. So this slide looks more complicated than the other one. However, if you understood the first one, this really is easier. Because we can use data for tasks like optical inspection. So how it's normally done, somebody inspects a part which is fabricated, whether there are slight deviances, and this is basically to reuse then a scrub and find the parts which should be used not for production any longer, right? And to automate that makes a lot of sense, because the task is so difficult, because I tried to perceive to detect the differences as untrained person, and it's completely difficult. And even a trained eye gets tired after some time. So automatization here makes a lot of sense. However, you have to do it the right way to train the data, to train the system in a robust way. Because you want to avoid that if the light, for instance, is shed in a slightly different angle, that the pattern recognition doesn't work any longer. So it's a powerful technology. However, you have to trust it. You have to trust the training process. You have to monitor it carefully. But then you can harvest the fruits of AIoT technology here. This is just one example of the stack of AI in Industry 4.0. Here again, Sven mentioned earlier some of the examples, so I just want to pick out two. Predictive maintenance. So for instance, you can, if you see that a machine heats up in an abnormal way, you know, there is something to do. And this is gained by the experience, as you know, the normal behavior of the machine. And based on the data, you find then the abnormal behavior and can do something about that. Another very interesting topic here is digital twinning. Digital twinning is something which is in the core connected to the promises of data utilization. Data utilization needs, of course, the trust and the belief that the data, the things are represented in the right way, so that the inferences we took in the systems are possible to map on the real world then. So this mapping adequacy is very important, and this needs, of course, sharing information, sharing then the conceptualization of the system, of the ontology, but then you have a real digital twin and can predict what happens in the real world by looking closely to your model. Digital transformation, however, is not easy. Katrin gave some examples about that. And you could, figuratively speaking, the seaways are blocked by some icebergs, and you do not better touch them. So handling data is difficult in terms of legal things. Yeah, we have the GDPR. Data might be poisoned. Data might be used to influence systems. Data, there could be bias in that. So the attack surface of those systems is bigger than even in traditional systems. So you have to think about defensive measures to ward off external attacks and be legally compliant. However, I hope you did a lot in automatization, your processes in scrutinizing data and systems, because with AI, it's no longer possible doing it in an intellectual manual process. You have to automate things here. Otherwise, it will completely eat up the business case and cannibalize the benefits you otherwise could have from AI. So this has to be done in a very clever way using tools and automatization. And regulation. As I said, trust is broken, and we are asked to establish trust again, securing the secure code base for our systems. And this is something we can't do alone. We have to work with partners. And so pick the right partners for that. We talked about the benefits. We talked about the risks. And how can you see that a system is promising? Actually, there are 4 dimensions to look for. Firstly, of course, this is some sort of no-brainer, but I mention it anyway. It must bring value. It must make sense. It must have benefits for business, of course. Otherwise, you don't need such a system at all. And if it's good, if it's promising, if it does make sense, it must be secure. Secure as foundation of being trustworthy. And the data handling should be secure and trustworthy. So this is meant by the term data stewardship. And if something happens, somebody should feel responsible for that. Yeah? Somebody you could turn to. Somebody who fixes the problem. And this is accountability. Because AI and AIoT should serve humans. And somebody should be addressable for you and for your concerns if something doesn't work. So accountability and taking responsibility is an incredible, important dimension as well. Summing up, the Bosch way of digital trust. As you know, trust is one of the core values of Bosch. Robert Bosch himself said he rather were to lose money than trust, and he was absolutely right with that, because trust is easily broken. And Bosch walks more than the famous proverbial mile in establishing trust. We are part of standardization committees. We have been active in the high-level expert group. We talk with the EU Commission. We talk with politicians. We talk with the platform, Lernende Systeme. We are part of that. We talk with people who are against AI, in industry, manufacturing also. We even talk with our critics, just to see and understand the concerns and to make our systems trustworthy accordingly. And why do we do that? Because we want to bring value for our customers, for you, for everybody. This invented for life is something we really mean seriously. And we want to apply technology in a way that it actually does make sense, that it does not eat up your business cases, that it's secure, automated, and you really can use it. I talked quite a long time. Probably you will forget some of the things I said, but I really ask you to remember two things. Firstly, trust is valuable. Trust is hard-earned and lost quickly. Second thing, remember, digital trust is more than one person, one company can achieve. The trusted computing base today overarches several systems, several players. So you have to work with partners, but pick your partners wisely. Thanks.
Thank you, Christoph. Thanks a lot. I'm sure there are some questions. Let's have a look. And for you, again, please use the Ask button if you like. Yeah, there is a first one. Christoph, what should companies do who don't have a senior vice president expert for digital trust in-house?
So I'm tempting to say everybody should have that.
Yeah, of course.
But seriously, this is why I said you have to work with partners. Yeah. Because not everybody can afford that. Because for a medium-sized company, I know a lot of them, and I have been CEO 2 times as well, so I know it exactly. It can be sometimes overhead. Yeah? Sometimes you need it desperately, sometimes not. So work with partners. This is what I meant by it's too much for a single company, and for a small or medium-sized company, you really have to work with trusted partners.
Could Bosch be a trusted partner? Is Bosch offering support to other companies regarding digital trust?
That's the reason why I'm here.
That means, what kind of services do we provide?
Well, I think today you have a very good opportunity to see to fill your mental shopping bag of what we have in stock and what we can offer. And if there is something you need, but you haven't found here so far, just reach out. And if you are interested in learning more about digital trust, or find something was not so convincing, you would like to discuss it with me, reach out, and we can have an in-depth discussion about that, because that's really an important topic.
Christoph, thank you very much.
Johannes.
It was a pleasure to have you here.
Always a pleasure being here. Thanks.